senior principal like anybody is at job group D5, but the deputy is at D1. So when Itimuli leaves, you find that there is no way the deputy can take over. So we tell TSC, make sure that we have substantive deputies, so that when the principal leaves, there is no vacuum, or you don't start importing somebody else to come and take over. In fact, in Northeastern, we've negotiated because of the issue of insecurity. We've said that don't transfer any acting principal. Let them grow until they reach that job group, because they are doing a lot of work. Then at one moment you come and bring somebody new, and they've been there working. Let them grow, promote them while they are still there, so that they reach that particular point. Another issue we want to discuss is the issue of CPG, career progression guidelines. We thought TSCD is not working. If you have to go through all the stages, my friend, you will take 30 years and you'll have retired. We want to negotiate, even if we retain it, then the issue of staying for 3 years before you move to the other grade should be removed. You can even stay for 1 year in one job group, and when interviews come and you do promotion, you move. That way we'll unlock this issue of stagnation and the issue of acting, because most of the teachers who are acting because they've not been promoted up to that grade.
So, without much ado, I'll start with the challenges that we are facing down there. Number one, we are in a very pathetic, poor, terrible working environment. JSS, number hatujazoea, and therefore, we need your prayers. Number two, yes, we have the issue of teacher shortage. You find that in every school, there's no more than 3 teachers against 14 learning areas. And that has been a challenge to us. A serious challenge down there. We have a team of demoralized teachers who are made to teach areas they were not trained on. For example, we have pre-technical, visual arts, number Samwangi, so we are just now. People power. We have inadequate infrastructure. For example, no laboratories, no support staff, no nothing. Now, these are our recommendations. And by the way, and for your information, I'm speaking on behalf of 210 and other 547 schools. Now, number one, we want GS to be domiciled in secondary school. And that one I know, Kelcha I'm a good friend, Kelcha, and we share it. Previous week, and teachers were in Mombasa for the annual conference. And in fact, they agreed that next year, they will be our principals in junior secondary. Now, when we go there for your annual meeting after the KCS, kindly fight for us. Now, so we want JS to be domiciled in junior secondary schools. Number two, let government, if they want this animal called CBC, and for that matter, junior secondary, to be in existence, let them employ as many teachers as possible to handle those learners. Because I know most of them are your children. This is what Najua to Afania. You are on the ground. Now, I'm finishing. Now, we have this challenge. And I beg for your pardon. Most of the primary teachers, they don't qualify to teach in JS. Sindio? Silikuwa hapo. tuliwapata hapo, tulipata wanafunzi pale, hawako wanafunza. Now, how can they head us? How can they be our principals when they cannot teach those learners? So you are saying, now that they are saying this is a comprehensive school, we are saying no. Na Mungu, we have power. We are saying no. And then we are saying, let JS have their own administrators. Sindio? Sindio? Yes. In fact, from our senior school, we have guys who can come there and become our principals, our deputy principals.
If you look at the basic curriculum framework that designed the competence-based curriculum, overemphasizes on the use of technology as a medium of instruction and enhancing learning. The question I want to ask this nation, through you, is how much are we putting in ensuring that schools are techno-ready for the implementation of the CBC? Very little we are doing, and therefore rendering this nation at risk. Ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate the many years KUPPET has been in existence, it is very important to note that there are quite a number of areas that need to be looked at. One area that you've already mentioned is the stagnation of teachers in various job groups. But even before we look at the stagnation, let us talk about the acting capacities. Ladies and gentlemen, many people are in acting capacities, from principals to teachers. A principal maybe retires, a deputy is picked in an acting capacity, and by nature, he or she appoints a head of department in an acting capacity as a deputy. A head of department space has been created, a subject head is picked in an acting capacity to head a department. Space is created in head of subject, a teacher is picked to head a subject. So you have a whole line of administrators all acting. And then one time the employer sends a principal. So all these people acting are forced to get back to where they were. Ladies and gentlemen, you end up with a very frustrated line of workers. And when you have a whole line of 7, 8 people frustrated, which work is going to happen in that institution? Horrible. It is important, ladies and gentlemen, and this, the union must pick it up, that we must clearly define acting in the teaching profession. In all the other professions, whenever you act, it is pegged to an allowance, because you are doing a responsibility for a higher job group than the one you are holding. We act, no allowance is given. Our sub-county school, Kesha Felt, have the capacity to handle junior secondary because they had teachers, they had minimal facilities that only needed to be enhanced. They had resemblances of laboratories that needed to be enhanced. So any addition of one teacher, 2 teachers, as it was done at primary level, will find another team of teachers there, and they would be able to handle the content that was secondary. As a nation, we ignored, and the children in junior secondary school today, I'm not afraid to say, are getting a raw deal. And this must be reversed. How are we therefore proposing a reversal, and which we want KUPPET to join us? Grade 9 must be moved to secondary. Otherwise, we are sacrificing a generation and putting our nation at risk. Issues of provision of enough funding to schools. On behalf of Kenya Secondary School Heads Association, ladies and gentlemen, I did prepare a petition that was sent to Parliament, in which we have enumerated how we have received the funds
from 2019 up to the end of the financial year 2023. With the number of students in schools. And when we worked out, with all that I've attached all circulars from the Ministry of Education, all circulars telling us how to spend the money, and working out with the numbers from the Ministry of Education, which are equally not correct because not all our students are captured on NEMIS. Still, with those students captured, there is a deficit of 54 billion shillings that is owed to schools. So sometimes I have to stand here and tell you, sometimes you may see as principals being very difficult in giving you money or giving you the facilities for teaching and learning. But it is sometimes very difficult. My teachers will tell you that sometimes when they enter my office carrying a piece of paper, before they reach me, I ask them, I hope that paper is not asking for money. But 99.9% of the time, it is coming to ask for money. Money that is not there. So we have asked Parliament, can you please compel Treasury to release these arrears, 54 billion? But we are saying all children must be captured in NEMIS. And we have given proposals. For example, almost 75% of our schools operate a biometric system. That biometric system captures each and every child in school. So it should be connected to NEMIS. And they will have all our children. And those schools that do not have, government should support them to come up with a biometric system for their institutions. We will capture all students at once, and we will know how many children we have in secondary sector, and we can extend it to the other sectors. And we are finding ourselves in the same situation as a Kenyan nation. That yes, we've been a powerhouse in education. Our children have been doing very well. But currently, we are facing challenges that we must admit that it requires a concerted effort to think and rethink, even with the recommendations of the Presidential Task Force having been made. There are still gray areas that requires us to think on how best those reforms can be implemented and adjusted. And as a union, you have a very big role to play. In this report, the Nation at Risk looked at two critical areas. One, it talked of the limited and inadequate teacher preparations. And this brings us to what our colleague in JSS are saying. We as Kenya Secondary School Heads Association have been very clear that we propose and we still feel that junior secondary school should have been domiciled in secondary schools. And we noted the reason why in secondary schools. And we identified, because we know the general public believes that secondary education is boarding school in Kenya. That is not the truth. Secondary education is content and not boarding. Boarding is a provision for those who cannot have their children at home and want them to school far away from home because of their many other businesses. But content is what is in secondary. We have made this belief to a level that we are ending up killing secondary institutions, particularly those in sub-county schools. They are lacking students, they are lacking teachers, they are lacking facilities, because we believe boarding is where teaching and learning takes place. As a nation, we must rethink boarding because of the various numerous challenges that we face.
That is relevant in the House, in the administration. Our schools are going through very hard times in terms of funding of schools, programs. Recently, we had a meeting, the National Governing Council, and I know Mr. Mutia, you attended, Mr. Kitonga, at KICD, Nairobi, sponsored by Education International, which we are discussing the funding of education in Kenya. we all agreed that without the other stakeholders, that the budget allocation of funding of education in Kenya is at the lowest. In fact, we are told that, and we know, budget allocation in Kenya out of all the countries in Africa is among the lowest. That is one area we want to ask the government to look at it. The issue of capitation, this is a nightmare. The government is limiting half of the expected capitation per student, and no explanation is given at all. And with the rising cost of commodities, the principals are not able to run these schools effectively. The principals are here, they will have their time to tell us. And therefore, as COOP at Machakos County, we want to support the Kisha in their proposal to increase school fees come next year. As COOPET, we are supporting you guys. The other issue is about the Mugus who are here. I was asking, why are these guys referred to as Mugus? I was told these guys are rich people who are teaching in funny places. I want to thank the Mugus for remaining in that funny environment. My office has continued to receive complaints about poor working relationship between the JSS teachers and heads of institutions. These teachers are being forced to teach primary school lessons, grade 1 to 6, and handling subjects that they never trained in. Imagine a scenario where a teacher is required to teach all subjects. For instance, a science teacher forced to teach Kiswahili, history, and so on and so forth. That is the scenario, Mr. Kishachia. That is the scenario. In fact, this one we have shared in many platforms with the national chair, Kisha, but the blame goes to the presidential working party on education reform for misadvising the cabinet secretary for education. And was so doing misadvising the president. Because if JSS had been domiciled in day secondary schools, as we had advised as a union, that was our advice. Well, when these people are going around, this presidential party in education, we said, let the JSS be domiciled in day secondary schools because they serve it. The teachers are there, classes are there, and we don't understand the wisdom which this group, this reform body came up with. But anyway, maybe we'll give this one Mugu to give us a story on this issue. So, what we are saying, the CBC was a well-thought idea, but the implementation now is a problem. Another issue I have to mention here is enhanced house allowances. This is another area, another issue I wish to address is the recovery of enhanced house allowances for teachers from former Machakos and Mafoko municipalities. Many teachers from our schools in these areas, like in Ingelani, Mutituni, Mua, Mumbuni North, Mumbuni South, Kimakimwi, Muvuti, Kimutwa, Kathekakai, Mujini, Eastleigh zones within the former Machakos municipality have been affected by this issue of enhanced house allowance. Likewise, those from Sofia, this is in Mafoko, Sofia, Kenya Meat area, Makandara, at the river north, Katani, Muthwani, Kinani, Mathathani, and industrial station areas in former Mafoko municipality have not been earning their right allowances. With the assistance of the head office, the branch petitioned the Teacher Service Commission to do a remapping of the above areas to correctly capture the schools within these municipalities. The case was consolidated with the similar ones from Eldoret, Kisii, Garissa, Malindi, and other former municipalities which were similarly affected. I'm happy to report to this meeting that the remapping exercise is now complete and the correct information is being fed into the payroll. Can we clap for the union for that? All schools in the named areas will benefit, and the teachers will start receiving their correct house allowances from the end of this month. The government has set aside 1 billion for the promotions. I think, Director, you are aware of this. And that's the reason why they have slated these promotions interviews, but we are saying that this money is not enough. It's not enough because our members have stagnated in one job group for too long. For example, job group C3, C4, and C5 for the graduate teachers. Those members have really stagnated these job groups. And also for diploma teachers, you find that most of them who are in grade C2, they have been there for ages. And that's why we are saying this money is not enough, Madam Director. Due to this problem, you also find that some of our members are being appointed as administrators, like deputy principals, in acting capacities, and remain in this position for so long without confirmation. In some extreme cases, some schools have remained without substantive principals. You find a school has no principal and also has no deputy. These are cases which are being, of course, we have been handling in our office, and we hope this problem is going to be solved this time round once and for all. That is our plea, Madam Director. Still on this matter, there are some teachers in job group C3 who have been appointed internally as senior masters, and they have applied to be promoted to C4. We hope this group will be considered for promotions in these interviews, since they have also acted as senior masters for many years. These are some of our prayers. Moving forward, any teacher acting in an administrative position, we are saying the Commission should consider providing remuneration for the extra role played by these teachers.